so grateful, especially to my colleague, the brilliant Pastor Ricky Rush. I thank him for his leadership and for the extraordinary hospitality that characterizes all that he does. And to be here on the South Side in this facility sends a powerful message. Number one, it says that Democrats, we don't believe in proselytizing faith, but we don't run away from faith. And we have no problem whatsoever allowing our values of justice and freedom to inform our politics. And so it's a good thing to be in the house right here at the inspiring body of Christ. Thank you so much, Pastor Rush. It is also good to be on the South Side. It is also good to be in Dallas County, because Dallas County, as far as I'm concerned, is the scene of a crime that took place on March 3rd. And Republican fingerprints are all over the crime of disenfranchisement and voter suppression that took place on March 3rd. And so it's good to be at the scene of the crime to pick out the Republican fingerprints that are on all that evidences the crime. But it's also great to be here in a county that showed up and showed out, not only on March 3rd, but we showed up and showed out during early voting, symbolizing if we did it then, we gonna come November, do it one more time. I'm excited because of the fact that I am privileged to serve as the nominee for the historic District 30 for the United States Congress. I say historic because it was birthed because of the fight of the late legendary Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. Eddie Bernice Johnson gave her life ensuring that we would have representation. Eddie Bernice Johnson did everything in her power to ensure not only that our votes would count, but she made sure that we had representation when those votes were counted. And so I stand here on the shoulders of an icon in Eddie Bernice Johnson, but also a fierce firebrand of a fighter named Jasmine Crockett. I like to clock it with Crockett because Crockett is courageous and lives rent-free in the head of every Republican in this nation, including the one in the White House. And so we stand here on the shoulders of that fierce firebrand of a fighter, Jasmine Crockett. But as we stand here, I cannot help but right now reflect on words that were uttered while I was serving on a panel during a show that was presided over by Roland Martin. Professor Greg Carr of Howard University made this statement that for me calls for self-interrogation, as it is an indictment that is insightful on what has often happened to our beloved party. Listen to what Dr. Greg Carr said. He said, "The Democratic Party never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity." That broke my heart to hear Professor Carr make such an indictment. May our gathering today all across this state, but specifically right here in Dallas County, calls us to make the most of this moment. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to transform this state. And hear me well, if we transform Texas, watch this, will cause the rest of the nation to follow. This is our opportunity. democracy, you recognize what opportunities are. Opportunities are born out of crises that are problematic, but they set the stage to become a platform for visionary leaders who believe that leadership solves problems. Leadership strategizes for power. Leadership serves the people. That's what leadership does. And whenever there is a crisis, and right now we are in the midst of a Republican-induced nightmare, a nightmare that is doing everything in its power to put democracy in a grave through the SAVE Act. I got to do that one more time because the SAVE Act is really a grave act that will put democracy in a casket. And we are here because as Democrats, we recognize Republicans, they lack vision. Republicans don't have solutions. Republicans only look out for their big billionaire buddies. And right now, we are in the midst of a crisis in this nation, a crisis where we have to have enough fire to put ice out, a crisis where we as Democrats have to not only have fire to put ice out, but in the words of the late, great Reverend Jesse Jackson, reset this nation on a course that is more humane and just and peaceful, especially when we have a nation that is now being put into a war over in Iran, a war that has not been sanctioned or voted on by Congress, and yet Congress is being called upon to pass a $200 billion bill in order to further a war that they have not, or a war that they have not ordained. I'm simply saying we're in a Republican-induced nightmare, and this Republican-induced nightmare calls for a democratic vision that generates a democratic movement. And when we do that, we can make this nation one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I like that about the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party recognizes if we are to seize this opportunity, opportunities also come when we seize the moment. We don't wait for the moment, but we take advantage of the moment. That's why Dr. King said now is the time, as he spoke about the fierce urgency of now. And I've got to remix Dr. King in the Freddie Haynes version and say, now is the time for us to mobilize and organize. Now is the time for us to spend time engaging in civics education. Now is the time to do all we can to make sure that we articulate our democratic mission with a clear democratic message. Now is the time for us to stand 10 toes down on what it means to be a democracy. Breaking it down, it means people power, and when people are powered, the good news is the power of the people is greater than that of the people who call themselves in power. Now is the time, and that's why the poet put it like this: I have only just a minute, 60 seconds in it, forced upon me. I can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. Now is the time to recognize when Dr. King said the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice, that Dr. King then went out and pushed the arc toward justice. So now is the time to push the arc toward justice and ensure that everyone has the right to vote. Now is the time to not settle for a minimum wage, but a true cost of living wage. Now is the time to make sure we aim at universal health care, starting with Medicare for all. Now is the time that we stand 10 toes down on what it means to be a democracy. Now is the time, and I simply put it like this: it's this time because this Republican nightmare has me feeling like Grandmaster Flash in the Furious Five when they said it's like a jungle. Sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle. Sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. And then Grandmaster said, don't push me because I'm close to the... Yeah, y'all ain't been in church all your life. I'm simply saying we're in the midst of a Republican nightmare, but we are called upon to generate a democratic movement based on democratic values. And that democratic movement, watch this, will understand that we must bring in those who have been othered. That's why we call ourselves the Big Tent Party, because we don't believe in ostracizing and othering, but we believe that everybody is important. All of us are special. Red, brown, yellow, black, and white, straight, gay, we're all precious in the sight of God. We don't believe in othering in this party. We believe in organizing, and every voice ought to have a voice. I simply say it's important that we also not only understand that we don't believe in othering, but here's the next point, and that is we are a party of what's possible. I like that right there, because understand the Republicans are all about fear, gaslighting, and lying. That's all they do. But the Democrats, if we're going to do this thing right, we have to make sure we're the party of what's possible. The party that believes all of us have the ability, if we have opportunity, to fulfill our potential, if we have the right policies. But then finally, we are the party that's going to stand 10 toes down, because now it's time for us to step up and speak out. Now is the time for us to step up. Now is the time for us to recognize that we have a responsibility to gather as a party. You didn't feel that? I'll make it plain. Mary McLeod Bethune put it like this. She said, if I have one finger trying to get your attention, it may work. But if I put two fingers together, you may turn around. But you let me organize the fingers into a fist, and I've got power to make a difference. Here's why we have gathered at IBOC today. We've gathered to organize our fingers into a fist, because if we organize our fingers into a fist, that is what real power is. Let's organize, let's strategize, let's step up, because November is around the corner. The Republicans are scared because they saw us show up and show out during the primary. They are running scared because they don't have a vision. They don't have solutions. They're running scared because they're presided over by a cult leader who is presiding over the most corrupt administration in the history of this nation. They are running scared because they recognize that this administration has not been about America first. It's about been aligning his pockets first, as well as the pockets of his billionaires' buddies. They are running scared because Democrats are coming together. Democrats are rising up, and Democrats are not running away from faith, because we recognize that all of the great religions of the world believe in the values of justice, believe in the values of giving a voice to those who have no voice. They believe what Jesus said when in the judgment Jesus says, I'm going to separate the sheep from the goats, the nations, and when I do that, I will say, I was hungry, did you feed me? Thirsty, did you give me something to drink? In prison, did you visit me? A stranger, did you come see about me? Y'all didn't feel that. Let me remix it Freddie Haynes style. Jesus may well say, I was hungry and you cut SNAP benefits. I was thirsty and you contaminated water in Flint, Michigan and Jackson, Mississippi. I was a stranger and you unloosed ICE agents and killed me right there in Minnesota. I was in prison because of your criminal injustice system. And America will say, when did we do this? Jesus Jesus will say, through your public policy, inasmuch as you did it to the least of these, you're also doing it unto me. And so that's why we stand as Democrats 10 toes down. I close with this. I believe it was the great Thurgood Marshall who put it this way. He said, you do what's right and let the law catch up. I like that. Do what's right, Democrats, and eventually the law will catch up. We'll read Daniel Favors, piggybacks on that and tells a story about a third grade class that assembled for class, and the teacher, Pastor Rush, shocked the class joyfully by putting a bowl with a goldfish swimming in water on the desk. Pastor Rush, Reverend Tallarico, what happened then blew their mind. The teacher said to that stunned class, excited about the goldfish, I'm about to leave this class, but before I do, I'm taking the goldfish out of the bowl and putting it on this desk. If any of you try to rescue this fish, I'm going to suspend you from this school. And the students sat there stunned. How could their kind, loving teacher kill a goldfish? The teacher then left after putting the goldfish on the desk, a structure not designed for it to thrive. As soon as she left, the goldfish, can you see it on the screen of your imagination, flipping, flopping, gasping for air? And while flipping, flopping, gasping for air, the students sat there petrified because the goldfish was dying, but the teacher had threatened them with expulsion if they did not get that, if they got the goldfish and saved it. Well, y'all, finally someone got up, ran to the front of the classroom, and she grabbed the goldfish. It leaped out of her hand, and she said, are you all just going to sit there and let the fish die? The whole class got up. They rushed to the front of the classroom, surrounded the goldfish, and together, as their coalition came together, a coalition of different hands came together, saved the goldfish, put it back into the goldfish bowl, and here's your shout. They rushed back to their seat, and James, what blew my mind is the teacher opens up the door, and the teacher says, congratulations, all of you get an A, because the lesson for today was that always do the right thing, even if the consequences are going to get you in trouble. What was she saying? You got to get in good trouble. And when we come together, we can save this democracy. If we come together, we can save this economy. If we come together, all of us can have health care. If we come together, we can make sure that everyone has a right to a quality education. If we come together, we can get rid of economic insecurity. Let's come together and not miss this opportunity. This is our time. This is our day. Democrats, stand up, step out, and stand 10 toes down on what we believe, because now is the time. Peace.